Sarah Brickcliffe.
Madam Deputy Speaker, this is such an important issue for constituents, and I am really grateful for the Honourable Member for bringing it to this House. It's been mentioned, given the recent examples that have exposed excesses of power in public bodies, it's only right that the law and charge and the way it's infringing on the rights of individuals is debated in this House. One particular case in my constituency brought this to my attention, and for me it highlights several problems with the way in which HMRC has tried to combat disguised remuneration schemes through the law and charge. The way in which HMRC is retrospectively trying to obtain income tax and national insurance contributions raises important questions. The first is that the law, when it comes to taxes, should be knowable and accessible to the people it applies. Based on the case I've seen in my constituency, this was clearly not the case. Many individuals who work for agencies simply did not know that their pay would one day be subject to a disputed tax argument with HMRC because a loan charge did not exist or because they were missold such schemes from hiring agencies. To add to this fundamental trespassing on the rights of individuals, we cannot continue with a situation whereby a public body is pursuing retrospective actions against our constituents with their rights with no right to due process for our own constituents.
Well, thank my Honourable Friend for giving way. First of all, can I thank the Honourable gentleman from East Antrim for his kind words of my time as Postal Affairs Minister. But does my Honourable Friend agree with me, and she's making the point I think that I agree with, the fact that it's a really good example of why what retrospective policy is not a good idea. The fact that HMRC needs to use their investigative powers, which outstrip policemen proportionately. The fact that actually they should be going after the practitioners of this, the promoters of this, which they can do in the Disqualified Directors Act, which I passed a few years ago. And they shouldn't be going after contractors, consultants, self-employed people who government and many government institutions treat as tax evaders as default, as was seen as the 3 million excluded during COVID who didn't get the support that other people did.
And that brings me actually on to one of the main points, because these are ordinary workers. These are our constituents. They're not fat cats. They haven't got offshore bank accounts. They're not like that. These are ordinary members of the public that desperately need our help. And that brings me on to another point. The way in which HMRC are actually handling these cases, which is not unfair to say, is hardly a lesson in how to handle dispute resolution or customer service. One of my constituents received a letter some 4 or 5 years ago telling them that HMRC was withdrawing their information notice that they had sent to them in the post. As far as my constituent was concerned, that was the end of the matter and they could get on with their family life. There was no contact for a further 3 years, but now HMRC has informed my constituent that withdrawing an information notice was not the same as withdrawing their concerns, and in any event, they are not aware of the reason for their withdrawal in the first place and that they would like to revisit the matter. I would say to ministers that this situation is untenable. HMRC cannot have the power to suddenly request tens of thousands of pounds from individuals, appear to drop a case, then revive it on a whim without any explanation at all. That in itself is an exercise in excessive power used by a public body. So what we should be doing again is going after the disputed tax from those who promoted and operated the schemes and who made huge amounts of money from doing so. And I understand that might be more complex, but that should not be a barrier. We should be protecting ordinary workers from abuses of power and pursuing those opaque and moneyed bodies who sought to game the system. And it's on that note that I would like to end and echo that these are ordinary people that we are trying to assist, and it is now time that the government acted. Yeah.